I froze when my wife's coworker mentioned a dinner I was never invited to. It was a casual Tuesday afternoon in the office break room. I'd stopped by to drop off Elena's forgotten lunch, something I still did out of habit after 11 years together. Mark, the guy from marketing who always wore loud ties, clapped me on the shoulder and grinned. "Man, that Italian place last Friday was incredible. Your wife has great taste. The tiramisu alone was worth the drive." I stood there holding the Tupperware, smile glued to my face, while everything inside me went quiet. Elena hadn't mentioned any dinner. She told me she was working late with the team on the new campaign. I'd eaten leftover lasagna alone, watched a game I didn't care about, and gone to bed early. That single sentence from Mark cracked the foundation I'd been standing on for years. My name is Daniel. I'm 38, a civil engineer living in Portland, Oregon. Elena and I met in college during a rain-soaked study group for statistics. She laughed at my terrible jokes, and I loved how fiercely she argued about everything. We got married 10 years ago in a small ceremony by the Willamette River. No big honeymoon, just a long weekend in a cabin outside Bend because we were saving for a house. The last few years had been quiet in a way I told myself was normal. We both worked long hours. She'd been promoted twice at the advertising agency. I was steady on city infrastructure projects. We still held hands in the car sometimes, but conversations had thinned. Weekends were spent running separate errands, collapsing on the couch with separate shows on separate devices. I thought we were just tired, busy, growing older together. I never imagined we were growing apart. That evening I drove home slower than usual, replaying Mark's words. When I walked through the door, Elena was already in the kitchen, humming along to something on her phone while chopping vegetables. She looked up and smiled, warm, familiar, the same smile that used to make my chest ache in the best way. "Hey, babe. You brought my lunch today. Thank you. Mark said he saw you." I set my keys down carefully. "Yeah. He mentioned the Italian place you all went to Friday." Her knife paused mid-chop, just for a second. Then she resumed, steady. "Oh, right. It was a last-minute thing. The client loved the pitch, so we celebrated. I didn't want to wake you when I got home late." I nodded like that made perfect sense. Inside, something cold was spreading. The next few weeks I paid attention in a way I hadn't before. Small things I'd once brushed off now stood out sharp and clear. The way her phone stayed face down on tables. How she'd started locking it again after years of leaving it anywhere. The faint scent of a cologne I didn't recognize lingering on her coat one evening. The sudden interest in girls' nights that never included photos or stories the next morning. I didn't want to be the paranoid husband checking messages. I hated the idea of becoming that guy. So I waited. I watched. And every night I lay awake beside her, listening to her breathe, wondering how long I'd been missing the obvious. The truth arrived on a rainy Thursday in November. I'd come home early because a site inspection got cancelled. The house was quiet. Elena's car wasn't in the driveway, but her laptop bag was on the couch, unusual for her. I figured she'd taken an Uber to a meeting. I went upstairs to change. Her phone was on the nightstand, charging. Screen lit with a new message preview. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Same place. Red heart. J." The initial wasn't mine. My hands shook as I picked it up. The lock screen photo was still us, at the coast last summer, arms around each other, wind in our hair. I entered the passcode she hadn't changed since 2019. The messages opened like a wound. Hundreds of texts. Months of them. Intimate. Playful. Aching. Plans for lunches I'd never heard about. Evenings she'd claimed were work drinks. A hotel reservation screenshot from 2 weeks ago. Photos I couldn't make myself look at fully. His name was Julian. He worked in her creative department. Younger. Single. Talented. Everything I suddenly felt I wasn't. I sat on the edge of our bed and read until I couldn't anymore. Then I closed the phone, placed it exactly where it had been, and went downstairs. I made coffee I didn't drink. I waited. She came home around 6, cheeks flushed from the cold, carrying takeout Thai like it was any other night. "Hey, I got pad Thai and those spring rolls you like." I was sitting at the kitchen island. Her phone lay between us. I'd brought it down. She saw it. Stopped in the doorway. The smile faded slowly. "Daniel, same place tonight?" I asked quietly. The takeout bag slipped from her fingers and hit the floor. Sauce leaked across the hardwood. She didn't cry. Didn't rush to explain. She just looked at me for a long moment, then walked to the island and sat on the opposite stool. "How long?" I asked. 7 months. The number landed like a punch I hadn't braced for. 7 months. Half our last year together had been a lie. I waited for tears, for apologies, for anything that resembled remorse. Instead, she folded her hands in front of her and spoke in the calm, measured voice she used for client presentations. "I didn't plan this. It just happened. Julian understands me in ways I didn't realize I needed. He listens. He sees me. I felt invisible here, Daniel. 4 years. Invisible. In our home. Beside me every night. I found my voice. You felt invisible, so you slept with someone else?" She looked down. It wasn't about sex at first. It was attention. Feeling desired. Then it became more. "Mark mentioned the dinner," I said. "The team celebration. Was Julian there?" "Yes." "And the late nights? The trips to Seattle for client meetings?" She nodded. I laughed once. Short, bitter. "I made excuses for you. Told myself you were killing it at work, that I was proud. I packed your damn lunch." Her eyes met mine finally. "I know. Say something that makes this hurt less," I whispered. She was quiet for a long time. Then, "I stopped loving you the way you deserve a long time ago. I stayed because it was comfortable. Because leaving felt harder than pretending. I'm sorry for that. You didn't deserve the dishonesty." The words were careful. Kind, even. But they cut deeper than anger ever could. I asked the question I hated myself for asking. "Do you love him?" "I think so." "Yes." I stood up slowly. My legs felt distant, like they belonged to someone else. "Where does that leave us?" "I don't know," she said. "I didn't think you'd find out like this. That was the worst part." She hadn't planned to tell me at all. I walked past her, up the stairs, and started packing a bag. Not everything. Just enough for a few days. She followed but stayed in the doorway. "You don't have to leave tonight," she said. "I do," I replied. "I can't sleep next to someone who's been somewhere else in her head for 7 months." I booked a hotel near downtown. Checked in after 9. Sat on the edge of the bed in a room that smelled like bleach and watched the city lights through rain-streaked glass. The collapse came in waves over the next weeks. I lost weight I didn't have to spare. Couldn't focus at work. Measured bridge loads wrong twice. Got pulled aside by my supervisor. Friends asked what was wrong. I lied and said stress. Nights were the hardest. I'd wake at 3 a.m. replaying memories, trying to locate the exact moment she stopped choosing me. I begged once. Texted her after too much whiskey. "Can we talk? Try counseling. I miss you." Her reply came hours later. "I think space is better right now." That was when something shifted. I stopped texting. Deleted the thread. Blocked Julian on every platform I could find, not out of spite, but because I didn't need reminders. I started running again. Early mornings along the river, breath burning, music loud enough to drown thought. I cooked real meals instead of takeout. Read books I'd meant to for years. Joined a weekend hiking group through a local meetup. Slowly, the days stopped feeling like punishment. Elena moved out in January. We sold the house in spring, split everything down the middle with lawyers who spoke in calm, terrible sentences. The closing felt like attending my own funeral. I rented a small loft in the Pearl District. High ceilings, big windows, almost no furniture at first. I bought plants because they needed care I could give without expecting anything back. One Saturday in June, I ran into Mark at a brewery. He looked mortified when he saw me. "Daniel, hey. I heard. I'm really sorry, man. I had no idea that night." I bought him a beer. Told him it wasn't his fault. We talked about work, about the trail along the Columbia I'd just hiked. When we parted, I felt lighter. I'm 40 now. Still single. I date sometimes. Coffee, walks, nothing serious yet. I'm careful with my time and my trust, but not bitter. I catch myself smiling at small things again. The smell of rain on pavement, a perfect playlist on a long drive, the way sunrise hits the bridge I helped design. The lesson wasn't that love dies suddenly. It's that it can fade so quietly you don't notice until someone else points out the emptiness. I learned to listen to the silences. To ask the uncomfortable questions sooner. To value my own company enough that I never stay where I'm only convenient. And most of all, dignity isn't loud. It isn't revenge or dramatic speeches. It's choosing to heal in private. It's walking away when staying costs too much of yourself. It's building a life you don't need to hide from. If you're watching this and something feels off, if conversations have thinned, if touches have stopped, if you're making excuses for someone who isn't making them for you, trust that feeling. You deserve someone who chooses you every single day. Not out of habit. Not because leaving is hard. Because being with you is where they want to be. And if they can't give you that, you're strong enough to give it to yourself first.